Los Angeles, I'm and most Hollywood nights. She goes to California, oh, California.
What you say about Los Angeles?
LA got the people saying,
You're listening to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. Welcome to Corner of the Galaxy, the show that talks 100% LA Galaxy soccer. We're glad you could join us. Now it's time to sit back and relax as your hosts navigate through the twisting, turning, but never boring world of the five-time MLS Cup champion, LA Galaxy.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. I'm your host, Josh Guesman, coming to you on a Thursday, May 19th. LA Galaxy get a brutal 1-1 draw against Minnesota United in Minnesota on the road. Another midweek game. Galaxy get a point out of it. Maybe they should have got 3 points. Maybe they should have got no points. All those are probably valid arguments. Plus, this is my favorite show of the year. It's whenever the salaries drop. So I am here to be your educator tonight on MLS rules, on MLS salary caps, on salaries that were paid, and why almost everybody on the LA Galaxy got a raise. We're going to talk about all of it. All right, get you through that. Then the Galaxy have a game coming up against the Houston Dynamo on Sunday. So again, a Wednesday, a Saturday, Wednesday, Sunday match, and then a Wednesday Open Cup game against LAFC. All that stuff is on deck for you. Busy time of the year. This is what it's about. We knew this time was coming. We knew there were going to be a lot of games. Open Cup has just made it that much busier with 2 additional games in a month that already had 5. I'm flying solo tonight, mostly because, and it is absolutely the only reason why I flew solo tonight is because I am selfish as heck whenever it comes to talking about salaries and everything else, and I don't want anybody like trying to take this show off the rails. I want to be able to explain this to you, so you should get your notepads out. There will be a test at the end. Open book test though, so we'll allow that to happen. But we want to talk about salaries. We want to talk about salary cap stuff. Some of the myths, some of the things that we can sort of glean from the rosters and how much people are making and how much money the Galaxy are spending compared to other teams in different positions and all that fun stuff. So I'm glad you could join us. I'm happy that you're here. It was probably a stressful Wednesday night for you. I think it was a stressful Wednesday night for the LA Galaxy. In fact, I'm sure it was a stressful night for the LA Galaxy. Talking to Greg Vanney afterwards, you could sort of see that he was exhausted and he was just standing on the sideline. Talked to Jonathan Bond after the game as well. Interesting. Jonathan Bond, clearly the man of the match in this game, which is funny because if it wasn't Jonathan Bond, it probably would have been Sacha Kljestan, right? And that's not often you say that for a substitution, but whenever you look at what happened in this game and sort of how it played out, it was fairly obvious that Sacha Kljestan came in and settled that game down. You want to know the turning point? It was Sacha Kljestan. It was Victor Vazquez coming on in that second half. Galaxy had a horrible first half, actually a pretty decent second half overall whenever you look at it. So we'll see. By the way, a $5 super chat. We'll log this question for later in the show. Would you get rid of Cabral if that also meant getting rid of the Papusas at Diggs? Oh, man. I'm going to have to think about that one. Oh, all right. We'll save that one for later. Hopefully, we'll talk about Kevin Cabral and sort of the starting lineup. Let's get through to so this is our layout for tonight. I should start with that. This is our layout for tonight. If you're listening on the podcast, I'm going to do my absolute best to explain all the charts, and I think I have like 47 different slides in here. It's funny. It feels like a PowerPoint presentation, but I'll keep it exciting, as exciting as MLS budget stuff can be. But if you want to see the charts, obviously seeing them is a good way to understand some of this stuff and might help you understand some of these things. I'm not doing anything crazy or amazing on the charts, and then with the podcast, I will explain what I'm talking about as well. So we will get you through this, regardless of whether you're watching or whether you're listening. All right, good. All right. First things first, Minnesota. We're going to talk about Minnesota. Then after we're done with Minnesota, we'll go through some charts and sort of figure out where the LA Galaxy are in terms of their season. And then we're going to talk about salaries, and then we're going to preview Houston. Does that sound good for everybody? I'm glad. Like I said, solo show, so it's going to be me. I have some audio if I start coughing and doing all that stuff. I still have my cough. That's fun. My kid is sick again, just in case you were wondering. 2-year-olds at preschool, what do you know? They're sick every about 3 weeks, so we're at that right now. And I would like to remind everybody going on vacation at the end of the month. I will not be at the Austin game. I don't know if I'll cover it in terms of, on the road or wherever I'm at, if I'm able to do that. And then there's a break for the LA Galaxy. I have about 18 days off. So it's a sort of a good time to take a little break, and I will come back. So, all right. Any Everton fans, by the way, in the chat room? Everton survives by the skin of their teeth, coming back from 2-0 to save relegation. Relegation is fun. All right. Whenever you're not one of those teams, I just would like to point out, I have always, I understand the appeal of it. Just watching, because I think that there was more excitement in that stadium for Everton staying up than perhaps it would have been had they made the top 4 and gone to Europe. But anyway, we'll keep going. LA Galaxy and Minnesota United played to a 1-1 draw. Both goals scored within 4 minutes of each other, and both goals scored within 7 minutes of the final whistle. Sacha Kljestan got a penalty kick, 83rd minute. This was a Chicharito penalty kick. It was a Chicharito header that was a clear handball. And they rightfully brought it back after a very long time of waiting to finally get to look at it. But once the referee Jair Marufa went over and looked at it, it was pretty obvious. I thought that they were going to call it that way. Sacha Kljestan converts it. We can talk about Sacha Kljestan and Chicharito and whether or not Chicharito should be taking that, even though that's probably not his thing. But the LA Galaxy get the goal. Unfortunately, right about after that, Sacha Kljestan came in as a second half substitute and then had to come out with an injury to his hip flexor. He was talking to Nikki K in the Spectrum group afterwards. If you go on cornerofthegalaxy.com, we have the full video up that includes the Spectrum interview because they gave it to us. So that's on there. You can hear Greg Vandy, you can hear Jonathan Bond. I'll try to play some snippets here as we sort of go through and take a look at it. All right. 1-1, and then Minnesota scored in the 87th minute, right? So 83rd minute penalty kick for Kljestan, 87th minute for Minnesota. Let's get to the lineups, because I thought this was an interesting lineup. So in my mind, right now, outside of Nick DePuy subbing in for Sega Coulibaly, who was out with yellow card accumulation, so you can expect Sega to be back for Houston. We'll just leave that nugget there right now. Outside of Nick DePuy in there, I think this is the first choice lineup with some caveats in there. I don't think Victor Vazquez is going to be the starter that everybody sort of wants him to be, and maybe he can get back to playing 60 minutes. And if that's the case, then Grandsir or Cabral, one of those guys goes to the bench. I'd probably put Cabral to the bench, but then whenever you bring Cabral off the bench with 30 minutes left, is that really what you want to do? But looking at this, with Chicharito up top, you had Grandsir on the left-hand side, you had Douglas Costa in the center, you had Kevin Cabral on the right-hand side. We have not seen a lot of Kevin Cabral and Sam Grandsir playing together, and certainly we haven't seen Douglas Costa sitting in at the 10 spot from a design perspective of this is how we're going to play. We're going to have 2 wingers and we have an actual 10 that's going to sit there. And the idea is to keep Cabral and Grandsir on the outside, stretching out the defense. Both have speed, both have the ability to get in behind, and they were going to hopefully see Douglas Costa find those guys back in behind the line. I like that. Rayan Raveloson, Marky Delgado. Oh, I said it now too. Penalty box for Josh. The problem is on my thing it says Marco Delgado because that's what they call him officially, and I was like, it's not Marco. So Mark Delgado in there at the 8. I'll take a penalty shot for myself. So those two sitting in there, that was fine. Julian Araujo on the right side of defense, Nick DePuy at the center back, Derek Williams in at the left center back role, and then Raheem Edwards returns after injury to start in this game as well. So Chase Gasper on the bench. Efrain Alvarez got pushed to the bench. I thought that was a smart decision. I have not seen a lot from Alvarez lately that would lead me to believe that he is in a starting caliber, and especially whenever you have somebody like Victor Vazquez who's starting to come back now. So I think you're going to see more of this lineup going forward, even though I think in this first half, certainly the LA Galaxy didn't get anything out of it. So just sort of keep that in mind as you're trying to, picture this in your mind about how this is supposed to work. And it's funny because I actually asked Greg Vanny. In fact, we could go to that audio right now because I said, hey, Greg, I saw that you put this together. I saw that where everybody was sort of starting and how they were playing. And so, is there something to that? What were you trying to get out of that? And so here's what Greg Vanney had to say. Well, I was able to pull it up. Here's Greg Vanney talking about what he was trying to get at Costa and Cabral and Grandsir and sort of playing in this formation.
I thought there were some good moments. What we were looking for is getting some running out of our wide positions, getting some depth running, getting some really threatening the back line with some running. I thought over the course of the game, it gave us some good moments. In the first half, as I said, we lost too many balls through the midfield, which doesn't help for guys who are trying to create space and looking to give you some vertical running if you're going to lose balls in that first or second phase of your build out. So, but I thought in the second half, again, I thought as we got across the field, those guys were building some speed. We had some numbers in front of the goal, usually not always in the right spots, but we had numbers there for when we got into crossing positions. We had some run-outs where we were able to play into the space behind. They gave us some good actions. I thought, again, the objective there, sometimes we play like a playmaker off the outside and we get less vertical running. And so I was trying to, in this game, I thought at times we would need to be dangerous in the counterattack, and or just get some of that vertical running to open up some space. And there was certainly a lot of space on the field. That's for sure in between, in the midfield anyway.
Yeah, so there you go. Greg Vanney talking a little bit about what he's trying to get. Again, vertical running. We've talked about this. This is one of the themes that I think we've covered in this podcast many times, is that with Grandsir, with Cabral, with the speed that they have, the ability to get those guys in behind. Now, the biggest problem with the LA Galaxy is they tend not to pass vertically, right? Even Douglas Costa in this game did not pass vertically, and that's been the downside. This is why probably the biggest need is either Victor Vazquez has to play 90 minutes, or you need somebody to come in who's able to control that midfield and play in a vertical sense. And here's the thing, if you do that, if you do get somebody in there, let's put Victor Vazquez in at the 10. Now, we know he doesn't sit at the 10. We know that sometimes he pulls out, and Greg was just talking about pulling out wide and then not necessarily getting that verticality. But with Vazquez, he is able to find the through ball. He is able to find the vertical ball and play people in behind. Not only that, but he opens up Chicharito. I mean, the LA Galaxy were living in a desert through the first 60 minutes of this game of really creating chances, right? There wasn't a lot there. And that first half was horrible. I know everybody says the Galaxy need to play faster, right? And I agree with that in general senses. But I feel like the Galaxy think they have to play faster. And when the Galaxy think they have to play faster, they end up playing almost too fast, and they're not in control, and they're not feeling the rhythm. It's like they're forcing the rhythm. It's like a white guy that's dancing, right? It's just they're trying. They hear the rhythm. They're trying to get there, but they're never going to get there. It's almost like it's too fast. It's like I'm nodding my head to the rhythm. I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to get it. It's like they're trying too hard to play fast, and I don't like that. I think playing fast comes from the ability to, one, understand where everybody is, which I don't think the Galaxy had any idea what was going on in the first half, however that works. And that's clearly on Greg Vanney and how everything gets set up and what they're trying to do and the ideas within everybody's mind of what they're trying to do. The other thing is that if you looked at Mark Delgado, who I think had the highest pass completion rate on the LA Galaxy, I think he also had like 99 touches in the game. Whenever we look at that, we're saying, okay, Delgado talked about being in a system where he understands where guys are playing. And a lot of times you'll see Delgado play a ball blindly and it won't be to the person that he was trying to get it to, right? And instead of using that as an indicator to say, oh, Mark Delgado sucks, which is what I see a lot of, use that as an indicator of that Mark Delgado knows the system almost as good as anybody outside of probably Victor Vazquez. And he knows where guys are supposed to be. And if the guys aren't there, then that's what's missing. It's these little spacing issues. Whenever Delgado misses a pass by like 5 yards, yes, sometimes he mishits them, right? But a lot of times it's because somebody isn't in that right position. And you can see sort of the spacing. There's still confusion about where people are supposed to be. You're 12 games in. I understand it's starting to round out, but you need to start figuring this out. And I think Greg Vanney's going to be under a lot more pressure as this offense continues to struggle. Defense did their job again. Not great, but they did their job again. All right. We can talk about the goal that they gave up, and we'll talk about that here in a little bit. But the defense did their job again. It was up to the offense to score some goals. And in this game, up until about the 60th minute, there were not chances to score, which is crazy to think about, because I'm going to tell you right now that when everything finished in this game, the expected goals for Minnesota was 2.69, and the expected goals for the Galaxy was 2.42. And if you're a Galaxy fan, you're sitting there going, well, Minnesota had the better chances. They should have scored 3 or 4 goals. The Galaxy probably should have scored 2 or 3 goals in this game as well. Some huge misses. One from Julian Rajo, one from Joveljic whenever he came in as well. You know, there were some huge sitters and misses. There was the ball that rolled across the front of goal that Chicha never went to go get, right? There was that one as well. I mean, the fact is that if you looked at even the XG on target, the expected goals on target, the LA Galaxy were basically even with Minnesota. As much as you want to say that Minnesota dominated this game through the first probably 40 or 60 minutes in terms of chances, not possession, Galaxy had the edge on that. But as much as you want to say that, the Galaxy created more chances in this game than maybe the last 2 or 3 games combined. And I think you can owe that. I think you can owe that to 2 things. 1, Cabral coming off the field. And 2, Victor Vazquez and Sacha Kljestan coming in, because it's that verticality. And if you're looking at why Victor Vazquez is able to make an impact or Sacha Kljestan is able to make an impact, look at who Sacha Kljestan came in for with Rayan Raveloson. Greg Vanney talked about Sacha Kljestan. I said, it seemed like whenever Sacha came in, everything sort of started to calm down. He's the one who settled you. And he said, I couldn't agree with you more, which means, Greg needs me. Really, it's obvious now. But what it means is that Raveloson was not getting the job done. And somebody asked in the chat room, I forget who it was, but they were saying, was Raveloson sub because Greg was mad at him? Yes, it was. It wasn't like he was mad at him. He was just like, you're not getting it done. I'm going to put somebody else in who can. And so they put Sacha Kljestan in there. That vertical passing ability immediately started to open things up. Whether that was finding Chicha on the back shoulder, whether it was finding Grandsir on the cut on the left side, whether it was moving Douglas Costa out to the right side. I mean, so if we're going and, I said, hey, for a starting lineup, if you could get 90 minutes or if you can get 60 to 70 minutes out of Victor Vazquez, then the lineup here would be pushing Douglas Costa out to the right-hand side, putting Victor Vazquez in at the 10 and putting Grandsir at the left-hand side. But Sam Grandsir is not holding up his end of this bargain either. And when you look at, Cabral, and certainly I think, I know I can tell Vanney's gonna stay with him. He's a project guy, and that's gonna be up to Greg Vanney to figure that out. He's got to figure out how long he can push that and how good that is for Cabral and how good that is for the rest of the team. Bottom line, the Galaxy need to score goals. I think they're going to score goals with Victor Vazquez back. I think they're going to do that. If Victor gets hurt, I don't think they're going to score goals. It's coming down to one person right now, and that person is Victor Vazquez. But the other part about this is that if you're going to go out in the summer and get somebody, what kind of person are you getting, right? And somebody said, oh, well, Greg talks about defensive midfielders all the time. Who are you going to push up into the role that's going to play 90 minutes, and how is that going to work? You can bench Cabral. That's fine. You can bench Costa if you want. And there's certainly some arguments about Douglas Costa and his shot selection, but that's his second 90-minute game in a row. He was heavily involved in that second half once Vazquez came in, but I thought he was MIA for a lot of that first half. And in fact, that sometimes it was hard to find Douglas Costa on the field whenever you're watching on the screen. And it was because he wasn't in the frame. He wasn't near the ball. He wasn't getting the touches, the things that he was supposed to be doing. So I think there's a lot that has to be done still for Douglas Costa to be rounded in. But the bottom line is right now that Costa seems to at least be trending in the right direction, right? So it's a struggle bus here in the first 60 minutes of this. It was not a pretty game, and it hasn't been a pretty game. And I'll say some of that is because you're on the road. Some of that is because it looked like the guys were tired, and that was for Minnesota as well. It looked like Minnesota was tired. Just a lot of things that sort of put it out. Now, Jonathan Bond comes in with 6 saves. Huge night for Jonathan Bond. Huge night for Jonathan Bond. The Galaxy haven't really had to rely on him that much this year, and they did in this game, and he came up huge. That's okay. I just want to see the defense get a little better. I think Nick Dupuis in there hurt the defense. I think passing out of the back, it hurt the defense. And I think on defending, it hurt the defense. So Sega Coulibaly coming back and being available for Houston is big. And that's one of those things that that needs to happen. So again, let's go to Greg Vanney a little bit. And I was asking him about Sacha Kljestan. And I said, it seemed like he settled the game down. But here's what Greg had to say, and he talked about, the whole thing, and he talked about his injury a little bit, and I think I even have a follow-up in here. So let's hear from Greg Vanney on Sacha Kljestan.
Yeah, I agree with you. Sacha really settled the game. I felt like, with Ryan, we took him off at halftime. He was on a yellow card. We were doing a lot of defending. I felt like just the completion ratio wasn't high enough from Ryan, and I felt like a lot of the pressure that was coming on top of us in the first half was just losses of possession. And so we needed to try to get better ball security out there. Sacha gave us some of that. I thought he and Markey connected better in terms of getting us out of situations across the field, things like that. I thought Sacha did a really nice job. He's been nursing since the last game a little bit of just a hip issue. Coming off the plane, actually, it wasn't even the last game, coming off the plane. And he's been getting treatment the last couple of days. He said he was all right. I think when he hit the penalty, he felt it a bit, and then as he started to cut the next few minutes and try to change directions. I think he tried to hit one more clearance, and that was the end. He couldn't go anymore. So that forced one of the substitutions, and the other I was just trying to get some fresh legs on top just to chase the ball around, and that didn't, and that was the other one for that. But I thought Sacha did a great job of helping us settle down the midfield.
Do you know about severity or anything like that, or is it just too early?
I don't really, because I don't know. I didn't even know. I knew that he had some hip issues, but I didn't know as to even what exactly he was dealing with. So I don't know if it's muscular in nature, if it's joint related. I'm not sure, so I don't have a great answer for that.
All right, there's Greg Vanny, and it was funny because Sacha Kljestan actually went on Spectrum and said, yeah, it's a hip flexor thing, and he's been working on it and stuff like that. And we've talked about this before because American Blues is saying, he called him Marky. Greg Vanny has known Mark Delgado since he was a little tiny dude, so he's allowed to call him Marky. It's one of those things. It's like he's known him for his whole life. So that's one of those things that we look at. But Sacha Kljestan coming in changed that game. Victor Vazquez changed that game. Those are the obvious things. I think the non-obvious things is Chicharito is going to sleep slowly, and he's frustrated. And when you see that from him, it's not a good look. He needs a goal. He shouldn't have taken the PK because we all know that his penalties, that's not his thing, and I think he knows that. And I think Sacha commands, by the way, enough respect across this entire team. Dejan Joveljic was talking about it at the Open Cup game, but he called, Sacha basically his dad. He goes, he's another dad for me. He takes care of me, and he has so much respect for him. And he says that he outworks everybody, that type of thing. So Sacha, if Sacha wants to take it, Sacha can take it, which is interesting to think whenever you think about Chicharito and the star power he is. But Chicha's thing is not penalty kicks. But Chicha needs a goal. Maybe the ball that was headed and stopped by a hand, maybe that one was going towards the goal. We'll never know. It was such a short distance between it. That wasn't there. But Chicha has not looked good, and a lot of that has been because the service has been abhorrent. They are not finding Chicha in spots where he can be dangerous. You see Victor Vazquez come in, all of a sudden Chicha's dangerous again. So the Galaxy need a player like Victor Vazquez that can go 90 minutes. That's what you should be looking for in the summertime, and a max TAM deal is what you're looking at. You have $1.6 million max TAM in order to figure that out. Just looking at some of the LA Galaxy's top players and just how things are, Sacha Kljestan came in as a sub and had 3 shots. He had 2 shots on target just as a sub, right? Chances created. Julian Araujo had 3. A lot of that came from the right-hand side. He had one of his better games as well. Julian Araujo played well, I think, on both sides of the half. Sam Grandsir had two chances created. Douglas Costa had 2 chances created. Raheem Edwards, 1 chance. Rayan Raveloson, 1 chance. So there were chances created in this game, and that's not something that we have seen. Completed passes is Mark Delgado at 77. Douglas Costa is the next highest at 37. Your number 10 cannot get 37 completed passes. Your number 10 cannot get 17 completed passes in the final third. All right. He did have apparently 8 crosses attempted, so he was trying to put stuff in there, but a lot of the things that you saw from Douglas Costa was not, the through balls that were going to open up space. And I think that they misused Grandsir and Cabral in this. I think if you're trying to put, your best lineup on the field, then Costa out to one of the sides, sitting Cabral and bringing in Victor Vazquez is that right now. But how long can you play that knowing that Victor Vazquez is, 35 years old, right? So something to keep in mind whenever we're paying attention to all this. By the way, Raheem Edwards coming back onto the field and playing, 70-something minutes? I'm looking for my chart that I have. Let's go see. Raheem Edwards comes out 75 minutes. Chase Gasper comes in. Gasper played fine, by the way, coming in. I know a lot of people were worried about him. I thought he was okay. just, non-existent at the left back. That's probably okay for coming in at the time he came in. Victor Vazquez coming in for Cabral in the 70th minute. So you got Victor the last 20 minutes. Sacha Kljestan comes in at halftime for Raveloson. Sacha Kljestan has to go out again whenever after he scores and after all that fun. So Kljestan comes back out. Joveljic comes on. Joveljic had a chance to win this game. Julian Araujo had a chance to win this game. There were several chances here for the LA Galaxy to win this game, and they didn't do it. You can look at the offense as taking a very, very tiny step in the right direction in terms of chances created. It's a minor step, but if you look at the expected goals, way higher than it has been. Most of the expected goals have been like 0.5 and 0.8 for the entire game. The LA Galaxy had, over 2. 2.4, I think, was the expected goals on the total there. So they created better. But again, all of that creation, and let me show you the expected goals chart because it's humorous to me. 60 minutes, basically a little after 60 minutes is whenever things actually start to pick up. Then that's that miss by Julian Araujo, which he was about 3 yards off the goal line from, that he had a chance to score there. The penalty kick, which is 0.7, by the way. If you ever want to know what penalty kicks are in expected goals, it's 0.7. That's the chance that the LA Galaxy had. Julian's chance was higher. It was a 0.77 from where he was because he was 3 yards out, right? So that's there. And then you had the Joveljic chance there at the end. So 2.4 to 2.7 roughly to Minnesota. So I know Adrian Heath was crowing, trying to say that reporters are like, oh, you guys are just saying nice things about the Galaxy because they're one of the best teams they have been over the course of the league, but we absolutely dominated them. Anybody who says so wasn't paying attention. I love that. I love when coaches are like, if you don't agree with me, you weren't paying attention. It's like, calm down. Calm down, Adrian. Your guys totally messed up their finishing. And because of that, the chances in this game were fairly even, despite the fact that you had almost none of the ball. Because the Galaxy really did do a good job in terms of holding that possession, but possession for what point? Robin Laud should have had a couple goals, but he didn't because Jonathan Bond played well and he also sucked on a couple. So that's something to keep on. Your leader in expected goals was Sacha Kljestan. Your second guy was right there, Julian Araujo, and then Dejan Joveljic. Remember, those were one chance each for Araujo and Joveljic, and they got a 0.43 and a 0.75. So that's what we take a look at that. I want you, if you have small children around you, you might want to avert your eyes from the next chart because it is oogly. Oogly, oogly, oogly. We'll go for the average position touches. It is a cluster in the center of that field. Whenever you have Raveloson and Delgado and then Chicharito dropping back. Again, average positions doesn't mean they were on top of each other, but it means that they were occupying the same space, not at the same time, but in their overall position, right? So as you run forward, if you're a guy who spends 50% of his time on the far touchline and 50% time on the near touchline, then your average position is at the center of the field, right? So that can be a little deceiving, but the problem is here that you had Douglas Costa as the furthest forward player, right, at the 10. And then you had Grandsir sort of in there. It's just this diamond, loosey-goosey, gross formation. It doesn't have good definition. There's too much in the middle, right? There's too many guys who are in the middle that were occupying that space at one time or another. I have no problems with Delgado being there. I have no problems with Raveloson, but is there some change in level there? Where is Raveloson? Where is Delgado? Where are they moving things? I mean, Sacha Kljestan only played for, 30 minutes, right? And his average position was on the other side of the midfield line, right? So he's at least in the attacking position. Cabral being his average position being tucked inside, way too much time. Cabral running into Chicha's space and Costa's space was maddening. And I don't know if they're trying to do that, if they're trying to get interchange through there, and it can work, but what are you trying to do with it? And why is Grandsir tucked so far? If Vanny wanted the verticality that he wanted out of this lineup, why are Cabral and Grandsir tucked so far inside in their average position? Why aren't they out wider? Right? So that's what I want to go back and see. That's what I want Vanny to explain and sort of take a look at is why didn't this work? And one of the reasons it didn't work is you have way too many guys clogged in the middle there. Right? It's whenever you look at the average positions, I mean, Costa on top of, basically, and by the way, Victor Vazquez comes in and then occupies the space for Costa. The only reason Costa shaded a little bit to the right in this is probably because he ended up playing on the right-hand side. So that shades him a little bit to the right-hand side whenever you go. Julian Araujo up in the midfield, by the way. There's that guy. Remember I said if you spend half your time on the opposing touchline and half your time on the back touchline, that you end up at midfield. There's Julian Araujo for you. Midfield. By the way, also if you stand on the midfield line the entire game, you would also end up there. But in this case, it's Julian Araujo getting up and back and everything in between. Okay, so listen, not doom and gloom as much as I think everybody wants it to be. You're on the road, and the LA Galaxy are actually a good road team. So this is the I know everybody finds these things crazy. I actually looked this up. It's not like the LA Galaxy are tied for the third best road record in Major League Soccer right now in terms of points, right? So the LA Galaxy are tied with Montreal and Orlando, and they all have 11 points. They all have 11 points from their road record. That's a big deal, especially when you realize the LA Galaxy have at this point played 2 more road games than they have home games. So the 11 points is real, which means they've only got 9 points at home. The bigger issue for the LA Galaxy, if they can keep this up, right? If they can keep up this this road record, then there's something to this. All right, because right now they're averaging 1.57 points per game on the road. They have 11 points off of that roadside. That 1.57 points per game is a tremendous number. Now, I expect it to adjust. I expect it to come down. Road form is usually momentary. It's fleeting. It doesn't stay. But if you are a decent enough road team, trying to get points is a big deal. I pay attention to the stat, and I don't think it's anybody keeps track of this. It's just me. And it means nothing, but I like to know what the answer is, right? And you have your win percentage and your loss percentage, right? The LA Galaxy have a 50% win percentage right now. They have a 33% loss percentage, right? But I like to take the draws and the wins and combine them into one. Your percentage of getting a point. What are the chances that you're going to get a point or better in the season? And it doesn't correlate to a lot of things, except some of the better teams, like 2011, 85.3% of the time they got a point or better. In 2012, 2012 was not a great year for the LA Galaxy in terms of how they actually played, right? But almost 65% of the time they got a point or better. Whenever you look at 2014, almost 80% of the time they got a point or better. Right now, the LA Galaxy at the point or better are at 66.7%. All right. And that's not great because 2017 ended 64.7%. But most of that and most of the reason that's coming in right now is their win percentage is low because their home record is not good. So the LA Galaxy are 3-2-0, 3 wins, 2 losses at home, total of 9 points. They have a home game coming up this weekend. Then another home game with Austin. Sandwich in between is a home game with U.S. Open Cup as well, right? So 3 games in a week, but the Open Cup won't go to any of these things. But this is something that I want to see is paying attention to this. How often do the LA Galaxy get a point or better? If you have a lot of games where you only get 1 point, you're not as good as if you're a team that gets obviously more wins. Simple things, but just I try to keep track of something whenever you look at all of this stuff. And for me, that's something that I think is a hidden talent for good teams, which is they have a good win percentage at home and they have a high percentage of getting a point or better. So when you play bad, you get a point, right? That's the good teams. When you play bad, you get a point. It's not like you're going to get blown out 3-1 at home. Galaxy can't do that. And it's something that we've seen. And it sort of brings in the questions of can this LA Galaxy team be an elite team and can they play that way? Little shout out to Sean Steffen. He is a former MLS analytics employee working for some MLS teams. He pulled this chart on Douglas Costa. Basically, he's looking at non-set piece shots, right? And the idea here from Douglas Costa is how effective has Douglas Costa? I've seen in the chat room people are like, man, I like his shots from distance. I agree. It's fun to see. It's what you want. The problem is the percentage of those, the chance that those are going to go in is very low, right? In fact, 0.03 from basically his favorite spot, which is just right of the semicircle, about 5 to 6 yards outside the box, right? He can score from there. Absolutely. Absolutely could. Okay. But the bottom line is they're low percentage shots. So if you have an analytics department and the Galaxy don't, that I know of, and if they do, they keep it so quiet. But if you have an analytics department, this is something you go to Douglas Costa with and you say, hey, Douglas, we like that you're taking shots. You are putting a lot of power behind them. You're going to end up scoring some of those. But we need to save those for certain times because you're getting in these positions and it's probably better for you to either pass or to try and break a line in this particular case, try to beat somebody and get closer because as you get closer, your chances of scoring increase, right? So he can hit those bombs. Now, here's in his defense because I believe this is true. Douglas Costa takes long shots whenever he doesn't have any other options. And he doesn't have any other options because people are not running. We're going to go back to Sacha Kljestan and what Sacha said after the Dallas game, which is, you have to, a lot of times the pass or the run needs to dictate the pass, right? And when we see the LA Galaxy, especially in this Minnesota game, what do we see? We see a pass dictating the run. It's opposite, right? The one time in the Dallas game where we were like, yes, that's the run that needs to be made was Douglas Costa cutting through the center and Chicharito finding him, right? You saw the run early. The run was into space. The defenders were already chasing because the run was already there. If you are able to do it the other way, defenders can stay ahead of you. Okay? So that's in defense of Douglas Costa. But the answer for Douglas Costa is to get closer to the goal. And his shots from there are fun. And he will eventually score one. But that may be his only goal this season from the run of play is whenever he hits one from 35 yards out. So somebody in our Discord says, just wait until he goes and fakes that shot and hits a through ball to Chicha that's running on the opposite direction. Absolutely here for it. Absolutely there. I like shots from outside the box. I think if you can keep them on target, which Douglas Costa does, they can be a benefit. But if you're doing things in this way, if you're using analytics, which I'm not saying the Galaxy are, but if you're using analytics, you have to look at this and say we're wasting some of these chances. And so I am absolutely 100% for him taking some shots from outside, but he's going to score one this season if he keeps that up, right? And so his passing, his ability to break through, his hopeful ability to get past somebody, which he hasn't shown a lot of, but it seems like he's getting a little more comfortable. That's what you want to see from him there. So, yeah, take the shot from there every once in a while. Hey, Douglas, you're allowed one or two of those shots every single game. Otherwise, let's figure out a way to get that ball closer. And let's make sure that you're getting support. I have no problem with Douglas Costa, by the way, shooting from there if he's doesn't have the support. Absolutely none. So something needs to happen. And in my mind, Douglas Costa, the center of midfield, is still the problem for the LA Galaxy. I'm okay with the defense. I'm okay with Chicharito. I'm semi-okay with Sam Grandsir. I'm uneasy about Douglas Costa, and Kevin Cabral is at the point now where Greg Vanney has to make a decision. What does he want to do with him? By the way, I want to keep the pupusas. If Marty, if the question is still there, I want to keep the pupusas. If that means that Kevin Cabral has to ride on the bench for me to have pupusas, then I'm willing to make that sacrifice. I know that's probably not the answer you all wanted to hear, but it's the answer I wanted to give. So that's it. That's sort of where we want to sit with this Minnesota game. Okay, not a great game. Super frustrating first 60 minutes. I like the adjustment in the second half. With Sacha Kljestan and Victor Vazquez, but that's not an everyday solution. So, this LA Galaxy team, the stats continue to sort of push this team in a team that looks really bad, but might be a good team whenever all is said and done. But we're not there yet. We're not at that point. I'm waiting for that breakthrough game. Maybe that breakthrough game comes against Houston. Maybe it all clicks against Houston. Maybe everybody's fed up against Houston, but you're going to have some tired legs. And how is Greg Vanney going to set up Houston whenever he knows he has LAFC and US Open Cup coming midweek as well? All right. Good. Glad we had that chat. That was fun. Let's see. Do I want to get through some charts real quick? Do I have any good charts that I'm like, you absolutely have to see? There's some good charts. Let's go to this one. The points per month for the LA Galaxy, sitting at a win, a loss, and a draw right now, 1.33 points per game average through 3 games played, 4 points in the month. Still have 2 games remaining, one coming up against Houston on Sunday, and then finishing everything else out against Austin after that. So some home games coming up. I would say that the LA Galaxy need to take advantage of these, but so far their home record is sort of hit and miss. It's like win one game, lose one game, win one game, lose one game. So it would be very good for the LA Galaxy if they close out their last the last 2 games of this schedule of this month, and then going into the break with 2 wins, and then also win the Open Cup game as well, right? You got to win the Open Cup game. That happens as well. Looking at the schedule real quick, Houston, then LAFC, then Austin on the 29th. There's a big break, 18 days until June 18th, where the LA Galaxy then get that game and host against Portland. So really, when you look at it, the LA Galaxy are going to have 4 home games in a row. There's just going to be a 3-week break basically in between for an international break, all that fun stuff. So June will be an interesting month, and I think there's Open Cup games in there if the LA Galaxy should make it by it. So keep that in line. I'm looking through some other stuff here. July schedule we can get to later. I don't want to get too much into that. The good news for the LA Galaxy is they picked up points on almost everybody. Austin was the one who beat LAFC at home. So that was a 2-1 win on the road for Austin, beat LAFC at Banc of California 2-1. LAFC has looked uninterested in their last 2 games, which is a interesting little take. Whenever we're supposed to be the best team in the world. So LAFC sits at 23 points. Austin now above them in first place at 23 points. FC Dallas, the Galaxy just lost to them 3-1. Sitting on 22 points, the Galaxy pick up 1 point. So they picked up a point on Dallas. They picked up a point on LAFC. So they're now within 1 win of LAFC, which makes it all the much more fun. RSL, 19 points right behind them. Nashville, 18 points. Nashville's going to be a good team. Everybody keep an eye on it. They've only played 3 home games so far, because they were building their stadium. So Nashville's going to be good. Colorado just lost to Seattle. So it was a lot of the lower level teams there sort of taking it. By the way, it was Houston who just lost to Seattle. I was mixing up my teams. Minnesota in 9th. The LA Galaxy just drew them at home. Portland in 10th. Seattle is going to start coming on. San Jose is a good home team, a horrible road team. Kansas City is a dumpster fire that occasionally plays good, and they played Colorado. There were 4 red cards in that game. That was an interesting one. And then Vancouver is the basement dweller in the Western Conference. So Vancouver at 11 points right now. 11 points. So just 9 points basically behind the LA Galaxy. 3 wins. Nothing separated by very far right now. LA Galaxy at 1.67 points per game. Austin at 1.92. Dallas at 1.83. So that's sort of where we sit whenever we look at it. All right. It is important, and I'm going to follow up Nathan and said, one thing about the LA Galaxy, they have beat some teams. They beat Austin. They beat LAFC. They didn't beat Dallas. It's funny because 538 still has the LA Galaxy as a better team than Dallas, but it shows Dallas with a better offense and a better defense. But in the overall rankings and still how it sits, the LA Galaxy are above Dallas. I find all of that stuff interesting, just trying to keep an eye. And listen, 538 got New York City right last year, and if we go to a 538 right now, we can see New York City again is at the top, and in fact is the better team by a bunch. 56.8 is their SPI, which is their little index. 1.7 on offense, 1.2 on defense. The LA Galaxy, 1.3 on offense, much different than a 1.7, and a 1.4 on defense. Basically, 538 is saying there's a lot of mediocre teams, and the LA Galaxy might be the kings of the mediocre teams right now. So that's what it is. They think their goal differential is going to be a +9. They think they're going to finish with about 55 points. And then as of right now, they're saying they have a 14% at a first round bye, 6% chance at a supporter shield, and 6% chance to win MLS Cup, just in case you're playing at home. But they have New York City, LAFC, Philadelphia, New York Red Bulls, LA Galaxy, FC Dallas, Nashville, Montreal, and Columbus in that order in terms of their best teams. All right? All right. Everybody take a nice deep breath, because we are about to go into my favorite place, which is going to be the roster rolls and a whole bunch of other stuff. So MLS Players Association released their full breadth of salaries for the first release. This allows us to look at a whole bunch of things. It tells us how much people are getting paid, because we didn't know how much people like Douglas Costa were being paid. We thought it was $5 million a year. It was $3 million a year. I think it's funny that most years, whenever we'd be off by $2 million, everybody would be like, okay, $3 million, it's not so bad. But everybody's still angry about the $3 million too. So that's good. It shows raises across the board for most of these. I will tell you why it shows raises across the board for only things. Let's, though, start with something that I think needs a real quick primer on it. I just want to go over some of the roster rules and some of the highlights, okay? There is a salary cap in this league, right? We know that there's a salary cap. It's not really a salary cap, by the way. They call it a budget. And that budget is set, a club salary budget is set at $4.9 million. Now, they get so much general allocation money, and they get so many things that can offset general allocation money, targeted allocation money, designated players, and how that all sort of plays into what your salary cap is, or the salary budget at $4.9 million. I would like to reiterate that only players 1 through 20 actually count against your salary cap as well. 21 through 30, those 10 players do not count against your salary cap, and there's restrictions basically on how many people you're allowed to put in those senior roster positions, and then the supplemental roster positions, and those different things. There's different levels to how that goes, and so you have to understand, like somebody like Eric Zavaleta, I think, is a supplemental senior player, that type of thing. He may not be on the senior roster, right? So he's not one of the 20 players that counts as a salary cap. I just used him as an example. Actually, I think he's a senior roster player, but I just wanted to clear that up. So only the top 20 players, only the top senior roster players get count against the cap. You have to fill 18 of those. You don't have to fill spots 19 and 20. If you don't fill 18, they actually charge you like the minimum salary charge for those senior roster spots, which I think is about $84,000. And so you're going to get a budget charged against that as already. The other part about this is that there is, with all that general allocation money, it allows you to pay down all these budget charges and stuff like that, right? We know our max budget charge you're allowed to charge against the salary cap is $612,500,000. Do you know why it's that number? In the CBA, it's hysterical. The CBA calls out that no player can have more than 12.5% of the budget. And you're like, okay, well, why 12.5%? Well, if you do 4.9 million multiplied by 12.5%, you get $612,500. That is what the max budget charge is. It's done by a percentage, which is really interesting as well. We talk about homegrown players. We talk about all the different players, the U22 players. All of these are mechanisms that are used to not put the full breadth of the salary that you are paying somebody on that budget. And then even if you did put a lot of it on their budget, you're able to use stuff like general allocation money or targeted allocation money to basically pay down against that budget. So those are the things that you're trying to say. The other thing I want to point out is that whenever we look at salaries that come from the MLS Players Association, we know that we get them in two different columns, right? We get a base salary and we get a guaranteed salary. Now, I think a lot of people have taken to using the base salary as the number that you would use to try to calculate a salary cap. I'm going to tell you why that's not the case. In fact, it's probably not the guaranteed one either that would also do that. But everything, they take your base salary. First of all, the base salary, they take the base salary and they multiply it by 4%. It's in the rules. It's in the CBA. All right. So it's literally right there. So how do we figure out what the player's salary budget charge is in an individual case? We take the player's annualized base salary and multiply it by 1.04. So they're multiplying it by 4%. So you're adding 4% onto it. Why? I have no idea, but that's what they do. Then they add to it any signing bonuses paid or payable to the player on a cash flow basis, adding to it any readily achievable individual bonuses in the player's contract, calculated largely but not solely by reference to the player's performance of the previous year. If you say, hey, you get a signing bonus, you're going to get $50,000 if you play 12 games and you played 20 games every year, then they're going to be like, well, you're going to get that. So we're going to add that to your base salary charge as well. Then there's adding into it any housing or car allowance in the player's contract, adding to it any loyalty bonus, additional compensation, including roster bonuses, adding any marketing bonus, adding in acquisition costs for loans or transfer fees, right? Adding in the cost of processing a visa or green card. Did you catch that? That goes into your base salary. Adding to the cost of it of processing a visa or green card. Adding to it a fee payable to an agent or representative. Those fees also get added to your base salary. So when we look at base salary, we do not have anything close to what is probably the actual salary cap hit. Okay, so I want you to keep that in mind because we try to estimate these things in terms of salary cap. We really have no idea. One, there's hidden amounts of general allocation money as well. Let me see if I can find all the fun things of why you would get general allocation money. There's stuff like, oh, you missed the playoffs, so you get general allocation money. Oh, you had a player, drafted in the super draft, so or you had a player picked up in one of the expansion drafts, so you get allocation money. Oh, you're in CONCACAF Champions League, then you get allocation money, right? So these types of things bump these numbers out of whack. So really what MLS does, and by the way, it says specifically in one of the notes that they do not tell people what what the total amount of general allocation money is, because, for negotiations and stuff like that, they want to make sure that everybody has, that everybody has a fair negotiation whenever you're going against teams. They don't want the teams to know what it is. All right. So anyway, so 4%. Yep. So Anthony says, it hedges 4% inflation. Hey, if inflation was only 4%, we'd be right there, right? So anyway, so that's how they're calculating these. So when you look at base salary, it's not the budget charge. Could it be close? Yes. And in some cases, it's easy to calculate because some of these guys are very easily put into buckets, because you're like, oh, well, Chicharito makes $6 million. So how much does he cost to get the salary cap? Well, he's a designated player, so he costs $612,500. Thank you very much. Any designated player costs $612,500. Except as a young designated player, only costs $150,000 against the cap. There's also a $150,000 charge that basically MLS collects for a third DP slot, right? So there's stuff like that. We know that Douglas Costa is making $3 million. We can tell you right now, I can go through here and tell you who got the biggest raises and sort of where those all sit, right? One of the guys who got the biggest raise was Raheem Edwards. Edwards was on basically about a 96,000. Let me see if I can pull it off my chart. Yeah, $96,375 contract with LAFC. Whenever he came to the LA Galaxy, he has a base contract of $275,000, and $307,000 is his guaranteed compensation. So he got a raise of, on the base salary side, $178,000, and on the on the guaranteed salary side of $211,000. He is one of the biggest raises on this team. But there's other guys, just in terms of Mark Delgado. Mark Delgado was making $500,000 for Toronto. He's now making $650,000 for the LA Galaxy in base salary. He went from $581 in guaranteed money with Toronto to $726,000 in guaranteed money. That's a lot of money. The Galaxy are salary cap compliant. They also have 30 players on the roster. It would seem right now that the Villafana deal, and Villafana got placed on the season-ending injury list. We know about the season-ending injury list if you remember Robbie Rogers, right? So Robbie Rogers got injured. The LA Galaxy were able to go ahead and put him on the season-ending injury list. They were able to sign a replacement player, and they got cap relief. They put Pele Van Aanholt in, and then he got hurt like 2 games in or 3 games in or something like that. That's how the replacement player worked in that case. The thing is that whenever the LA Galaxy announced this particular move, whenever they brought in Chase Gasper, there were a whole bunch of rules that sort of had to be checked off in order to get salary relief. I'm not sure that they did it because the Galaxy claimed the Galaxy did not claim that they got salary relief. What they likely got was the roster spot. So, and listen, there's a chance they got salary relief and they just didn't say it, right? But the bottom line is that, with Villafana making $475,000 a year, I think is what it was. 450, 486, right? So 486 right now in guaranteed salary. At 486, Chase Gasper coming in and getting, a $375,000 contract, which was basically a contract from Minnesota. And the Galaxy picked that up. Now, the Galaxy are not responsible for that entire salary this year. In fact, they're only responsible for $220,000, which is interesting because one of the things is that if you want to have a replacement player and get salary cap relief, the player can't make more than $250,000. Well, Gasper technically makes $375,000, right? So if Gasper makes $375,000, then he's above that $250,000, but the Galaxy are only responsible for $220,000. So which number is MLS using in order to calculate that? That being said, Galaxy are salary cap compliant through all of these. There was only one guy on this entire team who took a pay cut, and it was a large pay cut. Somebody on this team took a $163,000 pay cut, and they were only making just shy of $250,000 whenever they did that. Sacha Kljestan is on this team right now for $84,000. They have not announced whether or not he is in any sort of, the league has a coaching program or a mentor program that he's allowed to be in. And if he's allowed to be in that, and if he's in that, he can make up to $75,000 for his coaching duties of like the academy teams and stuff like that, right? He can do it. There's a whole bunch of rules that can do that. And so maybe there's a chance the LA Galaxy are doing that with him and he's making another $75,000. But Sacha Kljestan took a huge pay cut in order to be on this LA Galaxy team this year. The man has set up roots in Southern California. He's from Huntington Beach. He lives a little bit further south than that now, just a little bit. So he has set up roots here. There were really only two options for him if he wanted to keep playing, right? At least in the MLS level. He could either play for LAFC, he could play for the LA Galaxy. I have to imagine that Sacha Kljestan knew he was going to take this league. This is a league senior minimum of $84,000. So that's the least amount you're allowed to pay him at $84,000. Sacha Kljestan took that. Just remember that. Just got told by Dejan Joveljic that Sacha Kljestan is the hardest worker on the entire team at 35 years old. Sacha, don't kill me if I get it wrong. 35 years old, maybe 36 now. So he's doing this at the end of his career. He knows what he's doing. And like I said, maybe he's getting $75,000 more on the side. The Galaxy haven't said that, but it's perfectly legal if he's doing some coaching duties for one of the academy teams or stuff like that. He can't do any senior team coaching, but he can do academy team coaching, and they can pay him up to $75,000 in order to do that. So it may be a good way to sort things around. We look at the top 50 players in Major League Soccer. It's Shaqiri, by the way. Shaqiri is the number one paid player in Major League Soccer at $8.153 million. LA Galaxy, Javier Hernandez is number two with $6 million. You have Gonzalo Higuain at $5.7 million. Basically, you can go down. Douglas Costa, I think, is the 16th or the 15th highest paid player. No, 16th highest paid player in Major League Soccer at the $3 million mark. And it sort of goes down there. After number 50, which is Michael Bradley, who makes $1.5 million, it goes down to like $1.495 million after that. So $1.5 million now means that you're still in the top 50 for Major League Soccer players. So interesting. So if the LA Galaxy were going to go out and to sign a max TAM player, they would be on this list at about the 1.62, 1,612,500. You're allowed to pay $1 million over the max budget charge. All right. So that's sort of where we sit on the most expensive. Now, if we're looking at the LA Galaxy and how much money they spend, well, they're not the most expensive team in Major League Soccer. Atlanta United beats them by about $400,000. But as we said, if the LA Galaxy get a max TAM player, which we expect they will, they'll be put over that 21, possibly into the $22 million range, and could push them over that. So the LA Galaxy are second. It goes Atlanta, LA, Miami, New England, Chicago, Seattle, New York, Toronto, Dallas, Columbus, LAFC. LAFC is playing with two designated players right now. You have to imagine they put in their third designated player, and they'll jump up that list pretty fast. Cincinnati, the club with the least payroll is Real Salt Lake at $10.4 million. Charlotte at $10.7 million. Portland at $11.3 million. All right. So that's sort of where you put that. Now, one of the things that we can do with that information is to go ahead and say, okay, well, how much are you spending per point? Now, I would like to point out that even if the LA Galaxy win an MLS Cup and have a whole bunch of points, they still not do good on this chart. There's just too many teams that do fairly well with not that much. But having said that, Real Salt Lake is the best bang for your buck team. They have 19 points, or they had 19 points before this was done before the midweek games. So they were spending $551,000 per point, basically $551,466. If you go to the LA Galaxy with their $20 million, they are 18th in the league, spending $1,080,000 per point. In this league. So Chicago is the worst, by the way. Chicago has 10 points, or had 10 points whenever I did this, and they're spending $1.76 million per point. We can go quickly through the top spenders in the league at each position. The LA Galaxy lead all the others at the forwards position. Most of that is because Grandsir, Cabral, Costa, Chicharito, I'm trying to think of all the forwards. Joveljic, those are all forwards. They're all in that. So those are technically listed as forwards. So the LA Galaxy had $12.4 million on their forwards. Their midfielders, though, only $3.5 or $3.1 million whenever you look at this, right? We go into the midfield, and you can say Chicago with Shaqiri, obviously, and they're at $11.8 million. Columbus at $9.7 million on their midfielders. The LA Galaxy, in terms of their spending on midfielders, because they spent so much money on quote-unquote the forwards, the LA Galaxy in the midfield are like 25. Plus, Carlos Harvey's technically listed as as a defender slash midfielder, and so he's defender. I do a chart thing where basically I convert anybody that's listed at two positions to the position that was listed first, and I don't do much more outside of that. So the LA Galaxy at 25 in the league in terms of midfielders, but number 1 in terms of forwards. Those two things sort of go hand in hand, so don't get too excited about it. The LA Galaxy 4th in defensive spending. On defenders, $4.1 million. New York City is spending $5.9 million. They're the number 1. Seattle spends the least out of any team in Major League Soccer on defenders, $1.895 million. Just in case you wanted to look at that. Let's see. Goalkeepers, Philadelphia spends the most. That's Andre Blake over at Philadelphia, isn't it? So $1.25 million. The LA Galaxy are 10th in the league, $810,000. Some of these teams only carry 2 goalkeepers. The LA Galaxy carry 3 senior team goalkeepers with Richard Sanchez and Jonathan Klinsmann and all that stuff. If you're looking at guys who are overpaid, you can look at Costa at $3 million. Cabral got a raise. I told you almost everybody got a raise. These are all contractual raises. They're all built into the contract, which basically says, oh, hey, in the second year of the contract, you get a $20,000 bump. You get a $150,000 bump. You get this much more money whenever you do it. So Sega Koulibaly got a $120,000 raise. I don't think anybody's going to complain about that right now, but you might have last year if you knew it was coming, right? Raheem Edwards, we talked about, $211,000 raise, but that was a new contract for him. You look at Sam Grandsir, who got a $50,000 raise. You look at Kevin Cabral, who got a $210,000 raise. Again, this is not performance-based. These are numbers simply coming out of how the contract was structured, and as it keeps going down, those contracts keep increasing, right? The only way really to get better bang on your buck, and listen, the LA Galaxy overpay for a lot of these guys. It seems to be their MO, but the only way that you get, the real advantage is this is like whenever you had Nick DePuy last year, he was on his first, sort of senior team contract. He was making, let's see if we can go in here and find Nick DePuy. Here he is. So he was making $81,000 last year, right? So you're like, oh man, what a deal at $81,000. That's great. That was the league senior minimum, I think, at the time. So $81,375. Now he's making $231,000. So he got a $118,000 raise. That's a new contract. But coming off of a guy who started a whole bunch of games, it's not like you're going to get him for free anymore. So this is what you're trying to do on these is the idea is to have some up and comers that you're paying, and that you're getting a lot more out of than what the total cost of their contract is. The problem is with the LA Galaxy, that's not necessarily the case. And when you look at guys like Julian Araujo or Efrain Alvarez or Derek Williams, who's a TAM player, right? Those numbers that we see on there are not what the salary cap hit is either. So the LA Galaxy spending about $20.1 million, which is fairly similar to what they've been spending in the past. This is what we expected it to be. We don't really expect that it was going to be a whole bunch more. So that's where it is. It's funny because I see people talking about, if Cabral, what is Cabral's salary per goal? Well, I actually have that chart, but you can't do it because he hasn't scored a goal. I guess that's funny. I'll actually bring the chart up. So right now per game, they're spending, and we do this by games played. So basically, even if Chicha didn't play another game for the rest of this year, right? He's made so far, he's 12 games in, he's made $500,000 per game, which is what he's making, right? Douglas Costa so far this year has made $272,000 per game. Kevin Cabral makes $137,500 per game. Chicha gets paid like $2,000 per minute right now with the minutes he's played. Costa gets paid $1,383 per minute. Kevin Cabral gets $844 per minute. And right now, Chicha is costing $423,000 per goal, and Douglas Costa is costing $485,000 per goal, right? Kevin Cabral is at infinity because he hasn't scored a goal. But when he does, he will be costing, however many games it is in the season times how much you pay per game, because you break it all down into the games and the games played. All right. So those are the charts that I have. That's sort of where we sit. Again, the big thing that I think is something to pay attention to as we get ready to talk about this Houston game is the LA Galaxy's home form, only 9 points. They're 3 wins, 2 losses in that. And they have 11 points on the road, granted 2 more games, but you'd expect that on the road is a more difficult place to get points, but they are getting the points at a higher rate on the road than they are at home. Something to watch, something to keep an eye on. If you want to feel good about yourself, I'll make you feel good about yourself right now. The LA Galaxy at 20 points through 12 games are currently better than 4 out of the 5 Technically, it's not. 3 out of the 5 MLS Cup winning years at this point, 12 games in, right? In 2002, the Galaxy had 17 points, 12 games in. In 2005, the LA Galaxy had 23 points, so 3 points better through 12 games. In 2011, the LA Galaxy had 20 points, so at the same, right? 11 points in 2012. 2012, a weird year. Don't use 2012 as any sort of marker of success. 2012 caught fire at about June, July, and just didn't stop winning. 2014, 17 points. Through 12 games. So LA Galaxy had 20 points. By the way, last year, 2021, 24 points through 12 games. Remember, we were talking about that last year too. Keep it all in perspective. Marty Griffin, by the way, gave us a $2 super chat. Says, thanks for the lesson, Professor Josh. Hopefully that helps. I know there's a lot of stuff in here. I literally could talk about like 3 hours of all these different things, roster mechanisms and U22 rules and what actually happens whenever you have, a U22 player and he's, if you signed him when he was 19, then he only costs $150,000 against the cap, but you're paying Efrain Alvarez $600,000, by the way. One of the larger spenders. He got a pretty big raise. Overall, he got a $100,000 raise. He was making $500,000 last year. He's making $600,000, guaranteed $712,000. And the Galaxy pay him that, but his cap hit is only $150,000, plus all the other stuff that they multiply by whenever they do it. So anyway, that's where we sit in terms of this LA Galaxy. There are plenty of overpaid contracts here, and I think most of you are going to say they're all overpaid. I don't have a problem with I don't like Grandsir's contract, just at $988,000, and therefore you probably don't love Kevin Cabral's, but I also am... So the max TAM is 1.6 million, right? 1,612,500, and Cabral sits at 1.650. But there's other things to take into account with transfer fees and stuff like that. So it doesn't look like they can buy down him into a TAM spot to open up a designated player spot. But don't completely count out something like that. But trying to get a player out of like a U22. Technically speaking, I think you have to hold players for 2 years into the U22 slots, so you can't just move them around for 1 year, but you can sell them outside the league. So if you're looking at a target, there's 2 things that on this list I want to take, which is there's 2 things. With Efra making $712,000 in guaranteed, he is ripe for a transfer, right? That is a sellable number, which is like, hey, you make a lot of money and we gave you a lot of starting time and it didn't work, and we could use that spot as a U22 spot and pay somebody else money, and we could probably sell you to Chivas down in Guadalajara for like $1.5 million, and we'd probably be okay with that. Right? So that's one. The other one is Jorge Villafana. We talked about him being on the season-ending injury list. The Galaxy are still responsible for paying his salary, and as of right now, his salary number hits the salary cap as well. When they brought in Chase Gasper, those numbers are fairly close together. You can imagine that Jorge Villafana may have seen his last time with the LA Galaxy. Right, so he'll move off, and Gasper will be his replacement on that. And they have Gasper until, I think, 2025. It's like a 4-year contract that Minnesota signed him to. LA Galaxy knew that whenever they signed him, so it's not like they can pretend, that it wasn't. Some people have called that, an outrageous number. I have seen defender numbers creep upward with some of the bigger signings. Whenever you have like the Walker Zimmermans and stuff like that, domestic defenders do fetch a lot more money. So keep an eye on that one as well. Let's see. I'm trying to see if there's anything else. That's sort of where we're at. So again, the Galaxy have 30 on the roster, but they are able to. They technically only have 29. So just keep that in mind whenever you're trying to, move all this stuff around in your head and try to figure out some of this stuff. Again, a lot of it's secret, so you don't know the answer to a lot of questions. We can't tell you how much general allocation money the LA Galaxy have because we never know how much they got. We can sort of figure about how much TAM they have left, and we kind of know that they should have about, enough for a max TAM player because of Derek Williams. Whenever they sign, they tell you how much it is, but you sort of have to pay attention to that. Michael Ramirez gives us a $2 super chat, says $700,000 for 1 foot Efrain Alvarez is a lot. I was going to say somebody in the Discord told a really good joke about a McDonald's. But I'm going to leave it. And if you want to go in our Discord, I'm sure somebody would fill you back in on that because they make that joke all the time. Links to our Discord are always in the descriptions, either on the podcast or on the or on YouTube. However you want to find us and however you want to do that, we'd always welcome you to hop on over and jump right in. Always glad to have you. And we have like 920 people in the Discord. we usually have about 20 or 30 people who are fairly active in there, and so there's always people talking Galaxy. It's very rarely dead, except maybe right now. Maybe they're all right here. Herb, by the way, a $20 super chat. I was going to say, Herb, I've been missing you. He says, hey, Josh, haven't been able to make the live show in a while. Hope the baby is doing well. He's sick again, Herb, but he's doing just fine. He was running around like crazy. I was teaching him how to draw on the iPad. It was a good time. Everybody enjoyed it. He says stuff like, whenever I say, oh, buddy, we can't go to Target and get donuts today because you have to go to school. He looks at me, he goes, oh, man. So you got to love that. That's a fun day at the park for sure. LA Galaxy facing off against the Houston Dynamo. That game comes up on Sunday. Haven't had a Sunday game in a little while, feels like. Dignity Health Sports Park, May 22nd, a 5 p.m. start time, a 5:08 p.m. kickoff time. Game is on Spectrum Sportsnet and LAGalaxy.com. Please do not complain. I see people complaining. Don't complain. It is literally for free if you're in the LA Galaxy area. You can find it. If you're outside, you would have to have ESPN Plus. And why you don't have ESPN Plus, I don't know. All right, so 5:08 p.m. Is whenever kickoff time is. Please don't ask. You're going to ask, but please don't ask me. I literally tell you every week when kickoff is. It's in our Discord. I tweet it out. Like, I have graphics that say it. I am the one person who tells you what time the game starts every week. It is out there every single time. Stop asking me. It's 5. By the way, you can learn these formulas. What time does the game start? Well, it starts at 5 p.m. Who has the game? It's Spectrum. It's not a national TV game? No. Spectrum is always 8 minutes after whenever the start is. There you go. I have solved your problem. Okay? Plus, it's on the MLS website. Literally go to MLSsoccer.com. You click on the schedule. You click on the game, and it'll go in there, and at the very top, it'll say, this game is at 5 p.m., and then underneath, it'll be like 5:08 p.m. That's how it does. So, yeah, that's where we're at. So, 5:08 p.m., Nikki K, Joe Tutino, Kobe Jones on that. Pete Vianis maybe will learn how to say players' names soon. He called Dupuy. And I don't know what people are trying to do with Julian Araujo's name. Just call him Julian Araujo. Just, please, Raveloson. That was the Minnesota announcers were calling him Raveloson. Remember when we were doing that? Yeah, we're not doing that anymore because that's not his name. Anyway, that's where we're at. By the way, Mr. Provino, $5 super chat says school's out. Yeah, it almost is. My oldest, who is in Colorado, is just about done. So excited for that too. There we go. Want to talk about Houston? Let's talk about Houston. Let me grab my preview sheet over here. I have, by the way, I just would like to point out, like, these are all my notes for tonight. I have a ton of notes. Like, here, if you're on the podcast, these are all my notes for tonight, and I did this all today at work. If I get fired, you guys will know why. LA Galaxy 6-4-2, 20 points, going up against. That's not the right sheet. Let's find the right sheet. I was gonna say that doesn't look right at all. That's the Real Salt Lake one. And how did that one get over here? Does that mean I threw out the good one? That would be stupid of me, wouldn't it? Wow, I may have done that. That is impressive, even for me. I was just bragging about my notes, and here I am. No preview sheet. Did I like throw it on the ground or something like that? No. Okay, I got it. It's okay. I found it. 6-4-2 for the LA Galaxy, 20 points. 4-5-3, 15 points for the Houston Dynamo. 3-2-0 at home, 9 points for the LA Galaxy on the road. Houston 1-3-0, 3 points. On the road. So just one road win, no draws. They've had 4 games on the road. This is one of the things Greg Vanney pointed out. Oh, can we go all the way back? By the way, Greg Vanney was really ticked off about the throw-in and about how Jair Marufo didn't allow the LA Galaxy's Daniel Aguirre to get on the field before he blew the whistle, and so the Galaxy were basically chasing that last throw-in. Yeah. Anyway, I'd just like to point that out. Go listen to Greg Vanney. He was sort of like, I was a little ticked off about that. He was more than a little ticked off, you could tell. Last 5 games for the LA Galaxy, 2-2-1, 7 points, 1-4-0, 1 win, 4 losses, 0 draws for the Houston Dynamo. So keep that in mind. Galaxy are 4th in the Western Conference, 7th in the Supporters Shield, 8th in the Western Conference, 15th in the Supporters Shield for the Houston Dynamos. Galaxy are winners of just 2 of their last 5, and we said 1 in the last 5 for Houston. The last win for Houston, though, came 5-14 against Nashville at home. I watched the highlights of that game, and I watched some of that game whenever it was happening, too. They got lucky in that game, and Nashville did not play particularly well. So I don't know how much you can take about it, and then they just lost to Seattle 1-0. They did not get lucky in that game. Seattle was fairly fairly confident on stranglehold on them. But the Coco Carrasquillo will miss this game against the LA Galaxy. He has a red card. He got 2 yellows in the game against Seattle. And that's good because he's actually, Carrasquillo is a pretty good player for Houston. I like Houston. I think they're better than what their record shows. But they also just fall into these lulls. They love to get guys in the box, but on occasion they do not. They don't get anything going. They don't generate a lot of offense. They're a lot like the LA Galaxy. By the way, they've outscored the LA Galaxy. Have I told you about the LA Galaxy's offense? Yeah. I haven't. I haven't told you about the LA Galaxy offense. So the LA Galaxy's offense has scored 13 goals this season. I told you Houston, I think, has scored 14. Only 6 teams have scored fewer. Only 6 teams have scored fewer goals than the LA Galaxy. So the Galaxy are tied for like 7th in overall offense. We talked about defense before and away games and that type of thing. But in overall offense, so RSL, SKC, Vancouver, Miami, Chicago, and Charlotte. Tell me which of those teams you think are good teams. RSL might be a good team. SKC is certainly not a good team right now. In fact, they're having some craziness going on. But there are only 6 teams that have scored fewer. The problem with the LA Galaxy is not the defense. The problem is the offense, and that's what needs to change in this game. And I think Houston will abide by that a little bit. So we'll see if that is indeed the case coming up against this game. I'll tell you one thing that's scary. Not safe for work coming up here in just a second. If you have small children, cover their ears, cover their eyes. They're not going to want to know about this one. The LA Galaxy are favored in this game. As a matter of fact, they're favored by a lot. 538 has them a 62% chance to win. Only New York City over Chicago is the higher one, 67%. 62% chance for the LA Galaxy to beat Houston. I hate it whenever it is this sweeps, right, from one to the other, 62-14. 24% chance of a draw. This just screams upset so many times. So let's put it into perspective. Should the LA Galaxy win this game? Yes. Outside of question marks right now, and there's going to be media availability on Friday. So this is Thursday night. Friday mid-morning, there's media availability in person. I don't know if I'll make it out there. If I do, I'll give you an update. Questions about Sacha, Kljestan, questions about Raheem Edwards. Edwards came out of the game. It looked like more like a cramp than anything, so I wasn't overly concerned. But you don't know because he just came off an injury, and you hope that there wasn't a regression there. So you'll see who's available for the Houston game. Plus, we talked about it. Does Greg Vanney rotate this game? I don't think he's going to. I don't think he's rotating at all. I think he's going to keep his same lineups going right through the U.S. Open Cup and into Austin, and he's going to do it because he has 3 weeks off at the backside of it. So it's going to be all or nothing, which means I expect that a lot of teams are going to do that, and I expect Houston to be tired and drawn out and not a very good game. Listen, one of the reasons the Minnesota game was not good was because Minnesota was tired too. The Galaxy were tired. Everybody's going to be exhausted through the stretch. The LAFC game that gets played hopefully will be the most exciting one, and that's just going to be because of pure adrenaline. So let's see how Greg Vanney rotates, and if he rotates, I'll give you updates on that. And otherwise, we'll see you out there on Sunday. All right. You know, American Blue says nobody fears the Galaxy anymore. It's not true. It's not the same fear that it used to be, right? It wasn't like, oh my God, it's the LA Galaxy. They're going to beat us. But this year, the LA Galaxy's defense and the way that they play makes it very difficult on teams. It's one of the reasons you've seen so many ugly games, right? That's one of the reasons it is. So we're going to see where this all sort of falls out with the Galaxy, whether defense can hold. Because there were certainly a lot of people who were screaming the defense sucks and it's horrible. And against Minnesota, it wasn't great. But at the same time, Minnesota played some really good offensive side outside of their finishing. So we're going to see. And I think Nick DePuy in there also hurt the LA Galaxy. All right, let's see if that sort of settles everything. And the LA Galaxy will play against the Houston Dynamo coming up again. The game's at 5 p.m. It's on Sunday. 5:08 p.m. is kickoff. Spectrum Sportsnet, LAGalaxy.com is where you can find it. All right, ESPN Plus, if you're outside those coverage areas, you should probably have ESPN Plus. I hope that everybody, I know some of this stuff can be dry and boring, especially whenever you look at salaries. I implore you to go to cornerofthegalaxy.com. I have an article up there. The article's not the important part. I put all the charts in there. So go look at all the charts. Go see what people are making. Go see the differences in raises and salaries and everything else. So it's important that I think you understand this, because you can never judge a deal And you can never judge a deal until you know how much everything costs, right? And then once you know something costs, then you can judge a deal. Well, with Douglas Costa now, we know he makes $3 million a year. Is he making enough? Is he not making enough? Is he making too much? You know, those types of things are now there. All right. There we go. I think we're all set. If you want to come say hi to me at the game, I am usually down at the bottom of the press box steps at halftime. So you go to the top of section 108 and the press box steps end right there. And I usually come down there at halftime and say hi. So if you want to come over there, I say hi to a lot of people in our Discord. Some friends that I say hi to every halftime. There's a nice little circle of people there that discuss the halftime and do all that. And then for away games, for the most part, I've been on Twitter Spaces at halftime talking about the halftime as well. All right. That's where we're at. Subscribe to our YouTube page. We're on Spotify and all the places you can find us. All right. That's it. Enough for me. Solo show done. Hopefully you learned a little bit about salaries and some of the fun things that are out there in terms of mechanisms and different things and why it's complicated and stuff like that. And, hopefully everybody gets it. All right. Hey, let's get out of here. Let's do it. All right. If you're looking for me on Twitter, it's at Guesman, JGUESMAN, and of course at Galaxy Podcast. Head on over to cornerofthegalaxy.com where you can find all of our articles, our videos, all that fun stuff is right there for you. So head on over to cornerofthegalaxy.com, go to our Discord, subscribe, like the videos, all that fun stuff. Tell your friends about us. That's how we grow. Been around here. This is season number 14. 14 for me. Woohoo! Fun time. All right, so please go do that. Cornerofthegalaxy.com, all that fun stuff. All right, I'll see you out at the game on Sunday. LA Galaxy Houston coming up on Sunday, May 22nd, 5:08 p.m. is your kickoff time. Spectrum Sportsnet, LAGalaxy.com. For everybody here at Corner of the Galaxy, I'm Josh Guesman. You've been listening, you've been watching to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. Peace out.
You've been listening to the Corner of the Galaxy podcast on cornerofthegalaxy.com. You can follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Galaxy Podcast. And be sure to check out and subscribe to iTunes, Stitcher, and Facebook by searching for Corner of the Galaxy. Fans, we thank you for listening, and we ask that you be kind and courteous to your neighbors as you leave the podcast. We thank you for joining us and look forward to seeing you again. Until then, I'm Michael Araujo, and on behalf of the entire Corner of the Galaxy crew, goodbye, everybody.